In this video I'm gonna make a cozy camp with a warm campfire, but I'm gonna do it in Photoshop. I've always loved watching channels like Outdoor Boys and Xander Budnick, camping outdoors with a warm campfire, making good food and just enjoying the nature has always made me feel cozy and very happy. So I thought that building a camp inside the Photoshop would be interesting. I found lots of pictures for this piece. I wanted this to be post-apocalyptic world where things got kinda crazy, so I also dropped a huge AirPod. I know it sounds weird and doesn't make any sense, but trust me, the end result is actually cool. So without further ado, let's make this work somehow. So first I dropped this picture of the forest. I wanted to extend the background, so I started to remove the trees. I wanted to add more wide landscape with mountains. I removed these trees in the middle and added the main objects. Let's remove this one too here. After that I started to bury the AirPod in the ground. It's been sitting here for many years probably. After that I added some texture on the edges so it feels like it's in the ground actually. I'm gonna use the color lookup to make it dark. Let's turn this off for now. I'm gonna add the shadows on the AirPod. If I wanna make it dark, I have to replace the sky with something else, so I removed the sky. With the Refine Edge brush tool, I fully cleaned the trees to make them transparent. There we go. Now let's make the campfire because it is getting dark. I just added the picture of a campfire. Now let's add the tarp because what if it starts raining? I added the main character. The perspective is kinda off, so I used the puppet warp to match the perspective. This looks good. Now let's start adding some shadows. I have to add the dog shadows on the left side because of the campfire. Human shadows should be on the right side. I'm using just a brush tool with low flow. There we go, it looks pretty good. Let's add shadows here on the AirPod. There we go. Some shadows here. We have to add the shadows behind the AirPod too. With the same technique, I added the shadows on the dog. Just drop down the opacity and work slowly. Same thing on the human. Add more shadows on the feet. I'm gonna add the shadows on the campfire rocks too because the light is not hitting there. Now let's start adding the highlights. For the highlights, I used the color fill. I matched the color to the campfire, and with a blend diff, I removed it from the dark parts. I'm gonna add the soft layer first, this kind of ambient highlights. Same thing on the dog. I'm gonna also add the highlights on the rocks. I'm gonna add it roughly, and with the blend diff, I hope that it will look cool. Some highlights on the ground, there we go. Now let's add the blend diff. Yep, definitely what I was looking for. It looks great. Let's add some highlights here. AirPod should have highlights too, because it's an object, normal object, I don't know. I'm gonna add some shadow to separate this ear part to the main plastic part. There, exactly what I was looking for. Now let's add some highlights on the ground. I used the hue and saturation, and with the blend diff I removed it from the dark parts. And it is starting to look very cozy. Let's add some more highlights on the main character. This one shouldn't be so soft. Same thing on the dog. I just duplicated the layer because the lighting is the same. I think tarp needs some highlights on the front too. There we go. I also have to remember that the sky is another light source, so we have to add this green highlights. With the hue and saturation, I matched the color and it is starting to look very good. Tarp also needs this highlight too. I also tried to add this highlight on the trees behind. There we go. Mountains also have to have these highlights. I also added this green highlights on this tree. There we go. Now tarp actually needs this ropes so it doesn't look like it's floating. There we go, just a normal brush tool will work. We also have to make the shadows. Now let's add some textures on the AirPods because it looks brand new and it is weird. We're gonna need another layer, there we go. I'm also gonna add the stars in the sky. There. Finally, I added the objects like firewood, sleeping bag and stuff like that. There we go. These objects need the same highlights and shadows. I'm just gonna duplicate the layers. I'm gonna remove this highlight from the AirPod. Finally, I added the trees in the foreground and started to add the camera raw filters. After I changed everything, this is the final result. I know I say this all the time, but I actually love this. Everything that I love is in one picture. Cozy campfire, beautiful view, night scenery. It is just magical. I loved making this one especially because frankly I felt like Bob Ross, and I love Bob Ross. So I thought that maybe I could make series for this where you give me the landscapes and tell me crazy ideas for cozy camps, and I'll try to make them. If you think it's a good idea, definitely tell me in the comments. At the end, I think it is a win because I enjoyed the process and I hope you did too. And the final result is actually pretty cool. I'm not here to force you, but if you liked the video, definitely like, subscribe. It just gives me so much motivation and makes so much difference for my channel. And at the end, I really hope I'll see you in the next video.